Well, it's 6:30 here in Licking, Missouri. 34 degrees. I don't know if you can tell by looking, but it's cold. Me and my best friend Buddy here. Say hi, Buddy. He's shy. We're gonna get ready and see what we can do out there and make a video for y'all. Okay, I'll give you a rundown of what I'm going to do today. I've got my coal forge, the first one I ever made specifically for burning coal in. I've got to do some work on. Here's some other forges I've made. I've got this I made out of a cast iron skillet. It had charcoal. I burned in it and the ashes got wet and set up hard, but I just drilled a bunch of holes in there and put this metal sheet of metal, made a canister, and I have a hole here for just a $10 hair dryer from Dollar General. And this one here, old grill, it's got red clay up about this high, just regular old red clay out of the ground, and then perlite and Quikrete mixture to hold the fire brick in. And you can see my grate here is not in the best of shape, so it's going to have to be replaced soon. Then I've just got some old scrap aluminum sheeting I had laying around that I had stuck in there, and PVC, and my little ash dump. And I use the same hair dryer. I just moved from one to the other forge. And then I made this one here. There's some bits of aluminum from when I was melting down. But this is for longer pieces, which I'm going to have to redo it. The refractory's coming down. It was just red clay. But I had a fitting. Let me see if I can get where I have a fitting that screws on that pipe that hooks on that same hair dryer, just a $10 hair dryer that I picked up at Dollar General, and it works great for all my forges. In fact, it's got a high and a low, and if I don't pay attention, I have actually melted blades in two just right away. And that was using charcoal the first time I did it in this forge. But you see all this ash, that's a result of using charcoal and wood, and you don't get that with coal. And you also don't get all these sparks popping and flying everywhere. So here's my propane forge. Had a little unexpected shower last night, so everything got wet, which is not the best thing for a forge. Hopefully there's not going to be any lasting problems. But more to the point, what I'm going to tackle today. Here is my coal forge. Got some clinkers. Whew. Like I said earlier, 34 degrees. This morning, a little cold. Scrape this back. Alright, this is, oh, throw another clinker in there. my first forge I made just for coal, and the steel I used for the bottom of my fire pot is just too thin. I don't know if you can see that. I'll grab something that's somewhat straight, but you can see it's warped pretty badly. It still works, but it's just an aggravation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace that. And I've got a piece of steel left over right here. And I don't think that is going to work. And if it does, well, I guess I'll just deal with it. So I'll get that one pulled out and get this marked up and start drilling some holes. Alright, I've got that pulled out. It was pretty loose from it being warped and such. You can see now really just how warped it is, but also how thin the material is. I expected a little warpage, but yeah, didn't think that much. But like I said, this is the first forge I ever made for burning coal, and the first time I ever used coal was in this forge, so I really didn't know what to expect. So now let's go mark the other piece of steel and get some holes in it. Okay, you can see here on the other piece I had a lot more holes. My fire had a tendency to get a lot hotter than I needed, and I was burning up quite a bit of coal. So I'm going to try this fewer holes. I'm going to make them a little bit bigger, so it'll be hopefully more concentrated. Still get all the heat I need and save on some of my coal consumption. But I'm going to start out with a 1/4 inch bit and step it up from there, and I'll just stop whenever it feels right. What I'm doing here, I've got 4 bolts with nuts on it. So to go in the corners, I've drilled these holes so I can set that at the height I want in this hole, and then I'm going to use what I have it in the shop is sand and plaster for refractory to fill in the space, because my plate is smaller than this, and I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that's galvanized. I'm not positive, but what I'm going to do is put that in the forge and get back and let that burn off the galvanized. You definitely do not want to breathe that in. That zinc, when it atomizes, is deadly. So I don't recommend doing it this way. You can use acid, vinegar, and other weak acids you can find at the hardware store. But just for the sake of time, I'm going to do it this way. Alright. Also put the plate in there, burn off any extra cutting oil. Let these all get up to red. The galvanized will take on a yellowish green, almost neon looking color when it's starting to burn off. So you can see there's still some left on that one. So put that one back in. That's a dead giveaway. If you have any doubt of galvanized, that's how you know. And if you're ever working with a piece of steel in fire and your charcoal or your coal starts taking on that color, coal sometimes will have little different colors come in a little bit, but if you start seeing that color a lot, get away from the fire, because there's galvanized in there, and it will actually that color will adhere to the coal or the charcoal, and you'll be able to see it. And you want to make sure you know what you're working with, if at all possible. Just go ahead and shut that off. Oh, no, I fire it back up. Oh, a little backfire. Okay, I've got the bolts with the nuts placed in each corner. I've done is I've wrapped painter's tape around. I want to make sure there's no gaps. What that's going to do is allow me to put my plaster and sand mixture in around it and keep it from flowing down into my air tube below. Just for added measure, I'm going to take some of this fine ash down here. And put it around just a thin layer. So all it's got to do is keep that plaster from getting underneath the painter's tape. I went ahead and stayed with the 1/4 inch holes because I feel good with that. It's going to allow good airflow and not let the coal, when it cokes up, burns down into smaller pieces and the clinker, not to fall down into my pipe below. Here's my mixture. Mixed up way more than I needed, but it's inexpensive and I've got plenty around, so I'm going to try to pour this one-handed so you can see me doing it. Might be a big fail. Here we go. Oh. Guess that's not going to work. Okay. And what I've done is I just blobbed some in there and I'll move it in there. So get it down in around the edges. Don't want to push real hard to make sure I don't bust my tape. Here. Sorry about the sniffing. It's cold weather. It's got my nose running. If a little bit gets in the holes, right, it's not going to cause a big issue. I just want to make sure you clear all the holes again before it sets up. Then any extra, just scrape away. Sometimes you just got to get dirty. Oh. Piece of wood here. Clear all my holes. Okay. Now I'll get my fancy dancy blower. It just goes in there and friction will hold it in place. Make sure I got it plugged in. Since it's so cold, sorry I'm moving all over the place. I don't have a proper camera holder yet. Click that on. Make sure the ash dump's closed. That heat will help that dry. Now I'll go drink some coffee and rest with Buddy and Mrs. Buffalo, and come back, and once that's set up, we'll fire it up, see how it's working. Okay, so I've made it back out here. The cold has made it to where it hasn't completely set up, but it has set up enough where I can go ahead and light it without any problem. Now I went ahead and, if I could find my torch. Went ahead, took my hatchet, just chopped up some pine, scrap 2 before I had, and get that burning. Burning. Go ahead and get the coal on there. Just getting the coal to ignite by itself is next to impossible. Once that so wood's going, turn the blower on. Take some green coal, add it around. Ordinarily I'd have coal all around and just a little spot cleared out in the middle for this. Now I'm no expert, still learning. I've made about 8 or 10 knives in 3 months. It takes me a while to get stuff done. I had suffered a back injury, so I have to take quite a few breaks. You'll notice a lot of cuts in the video. think my wood has went out. And I tell you that not because I want people to feel bad for me. I mean, I felt bad for myself long enough after the accident, but people have been hurt, life-changing accident like mine. It's not a life-ending thing. You can, yeah, you got to pace yourself. You got to change the way you do things. Like I'm in a wheelchair when I'm in the shop because I can't stand long enough to do the things out here. I can't lift the heavy hammers to do any amount of work. And you know, some things that would take me a couple hours, it might take me days or weeks. But you just gotta get up and do it. Anyhow, if I can get this to light. I've got some good airflow, I can see. There, now that should do it right there. Yeah, in fact, I was in there for quite a while longer than I expected. I was afraid there might be some damage to my fancy blower down there. But, you know, I come out and do what I can and go and lean back in my recliner, and Buddy jumps up there on me, and we have our conversations and carry on. Now you can see the coal starting to take. There we go. And here in a minute, should most of that smoke stop. That green coal smokes quite a bit, but once it cokes up, then you don't have to deal with that smoke. Now you'll hear that popping. You might be able to hear it. I don't know, but you know, I talked about the charcoal. You get a lot of popping and snapping, and once that wood burns up that you used to start the coal, you won't get that anymore. With the charcoal, it looks like a sparkler in there. It's just sparks going everywhere, and it's gets all over your clothes, and it doesn't take too long to ruin a shirt. Which brings me to another point. If you're going to start doing anything with a forge, something like this, I recommend going out and buying you a leather apron, so it will save your clothes. It is well worth it. It'll save from the heat. It'll save you. It'll save your clothes. Now, while this is going, I'm going to go ahead and do a couple other little things and get some stuff around, and we'll heat up some metal and see how it's going to work. Alright, it's coked up pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and kick the blower up on high. You can tell it's got good airflow. Go ahead and put this piece of spring steel in. You don't want to ram it down too far, because you actually want the air to travel through the fire before it gets to the metal that you're working, so it picks up the heat, and you have just a layer over the top to help hold the heat in. And if you shove it down too far, the blower will actually help, it'll keep it cold. It won't heat up properly. And the fact that I have fewer holes in that plate, it's got a more concentrated airflow that gives it a stronger blast, and I think it's going to give me a quicker heat on my metal. But it's you see, it's between these two spots here, where before it would almost catch from between these two bricks entirely, which isn't what you want. You only need this little area right here to heat up the piece you're working. You can see it's already getting warm. We could work this area here. I know I'll have to work a little bit to find my sweet spot now. Every forge you'll find has that one sweet spot. It'll heat in one area a little bit quicker than others. Since I changed that plate down there, caused the airflow to come in at a little bit different spot, so it'll change the qualities of the forge. So I'll have to work it a little bit. As you can see now, hopefully the camera will pick it up. It's heating really well. So I'll call that a success. And I thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe.